Greetings and welcome to Step-by-Step Immigration Forms video tutorial for Form G325A, the Biographic Information Form. This is a very important part of the application for the adjustment of status based on the marriage between U.S. citizen and a non-U.S. citizen. And this form is used to give the examiners a background of who you are, where you lived, where you've worked, who your parents are, and a bunch of other information that goes pretty much in depth into each one of your lives. Now, both the husband and the wife are required to fill out this form, and as you'll see, it's a complicated form, so we're going to spend some time going line by line and step by step so that you'll be able to prepare it and have it accepted by the Immigration Service. First thing I'd like to say is that what I'm going to be doing is describing to you the questions that are asked on the form, and we'll go over the instruction sheet, and I won't be advising you on what you should put down because I don't know you and I don't know your specific situation. So I cannot advise you, and for this reason you can't rely on this video tutorial as actually legal advice. Every day when I'm working as an attorney, I hear people's story and I tell them what to put down in these boxes based on what I understand. But I'm not going to be able to do that with you, so you cannot rely on this video tutorial as true legal advice. However, by going through these forms step by step and line by line, you'll get some good information about what the Immigration Service means by these questions, what they expect you to put in there, and also you'll get information about how it all fits together as one big application. So I'm really glad you're here with us, and you're going to learn a lot while going through this form tutorial, believe me. So now I'm going to switch over to a screen capture of the actual video of the form that we're going to be using, the G325A, and we're going to take it step by step and line by line. Okay, so here we are at the home page of the USCIS. Now we always use the USCIS forms directly from their website when we're doing these video tutorials because we want to make sure you know how to find the most updated forms to do this work. These forms change all the time. They're constantly being updated. So the forms we use today on this tutorial may be out of date by the time you watch it. So for that reason, we want to take you through the website so you know exactly where to go to locate this form, and also how to read the instructions to know where to file it, how much the fees are, and all the rest of the important information that may change from time to time. So we're here at the home page of the USCIS, and this is located at uscis.gov. So we're going to bring that up and you'll see immigration forms here. We're going to click on immigration forms and we see the immigration forms page here. And they're in numerical order, so we're going to scroll down. G325A right there, biographic information. Now it says 0, there's no fee associated with this, so that's great. And this edition is 7/14/06, and it also says previous editions accepted. So they're pretty generous with this form then. And biographic information, purpose of form. One thing we want to get clear with you on how to proceed with this video is to print out this G325A form first as we're going through it and fill it in with pencil. That way you can make your mistakes, make your errors, and get it all figured out on the form, and then go ahead, open up the website and fill in the form on the computer. It ends up working much better, especially on this form, and you'll see why when we start going through it. There is a lot of complexity in this form, and it will take some time for you to prepare your answers. So this way it'll be much more efficient to you, and the form will end up being a lot better looking. So, biographic information, purpose of form, to provide biographic information on an alien. You file this form only as instructed on another immigration application or petition. Biographic is your life story. So this is going to tell them your life story. This version of the G325A is a fillable form. You should install the latest version of Adobe Reader to make best use of the fillable features of this form. So that's it. Download G325A right here. Let's dive in. Okay, here's the form. Now you'll notice page 1 of 5. This form, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 pages of the exact same thing. This is a quadruplicate form. And you'll see in the bottom left corner here, number 4, consulate. This one goes to the consulate. Number 3, C. Number 2, Rec Burr. Number 1, ident. So these are different agencies and different departments that they use. You'll see over here at the top right 53109, and ident, Rec Burr. I don't know what those mean. I cannot tell a lie. I don't know what those mean. I do know there's 4 different forms, and so what I like to do is I like to print out just one form, the first page, and then I will fill that out. And then when I go back, I'll print out just one page. I don't like to waste paper, so I'll print out the one page, have the person sign it, you'll sign it, and then you make copies of that page already signed. Or if you want, you can print out all 4, sign original copies of all 4, staple them up at the top, and make sure you're giving them 4 pages of the form. So the last page is the instruction form, so let's scroll down to that. What is the purpose of this form? We've covered it. It's just to give biographic information. Privacy Act notice. This is we ask for the information on this form and associated evidence to determine if you have established eligibility for the immigration benefit you are seeking. Our legal right to ask for this information is in 8 U.S. Code 1101 and 1255. We may provide this information to other government agencies. Failure to provide this information may delay a final decision or result in denial of your application or petition. So, yeah, don't say, well, that's private information, I can't give you that. No, if you're going to present yourself into the United States to come in and live here, they want to know everything about you. So it doesn't work to claim that you have some right of privacy against the Immigration Service. So let's back up then. And I've read in some places where they said if you've given this information on other forms, you don't have to provide it again. That, however, is not the rule that I live by. I live by the rule of every box needs a response in it. Either the information they've requested, or none, or N/A, which is not applicable. So that's how we're going to approach this form, is we're going to put something in each box. Now remember, there's going to be 2 forms filled out. One will be for the U.S. citizen sponsor, and the other will be for the non-U.S. citizen beneficiary. So I'm going to fill this one out for my beneficiary, and I will pretend that she is my wife, and I will fill this out for her and put her information down. Now, one of the things about this form, which is so important, is that when you go into your interview, husband and wife, to get your green card, you are going to be expected to know everything on this form for your spouse. You should know her family's names, you should know where she's worked, you should know where she's been living, All the answers on this you are expected to know. So if they decide to split you up and they ask you questions and you can't remember or you don't know any of the answers that your spouse has provided on this form, that will be a problem for you, and they can definitely deny your application based on that, because they may feel that you're a fraud and they don't believe you. So heads up, work together on these forms. Make sure that you know each other's responses cold before you go into that interview, and then you will impress them by how much stuff you know. So family name, then, that is the last name. So I like to put the last name in capital letters, and if you have the two last names, then you would put it like that with a dash in between. And in a lot of Latin countries, they use the father's last name in the first position and the mother's last name in the second position. But for us, we're just going to put the one last name and our first name. Then on the first name, I like to use a capital letter for the first letter, and then the rest lowercase like that, so that it's easy to tell that these names aren't other last names. Okay, we have male and female. There's a choice there, so we go female. Birth date, okay. I'm going to put it in this kind of a format with month, day, and then year. Citizenship or nationality. File number A. A is the alien number. We've gone through a lot of different forms, but most of the people who at this point are applying for a green card based on marriage, they don't have an alien number. They might have a non-immigrant number or a receipt number or something like that. Most of the time they don't have an alien number. They would get an alien number if they had applied for a green card before. So if that's the case, then you should look through your old documents and find that alien number. But if we don't have one, then we'll just put none here. Okay. All other names used, including names by previous marriages. Okay. So if your spouse has different names, then that's a good way to put it. And I like to put the entire name in the same way that we did it this way. So if she had another name before Daly, let's see, it was Garcia, I would put that like that, and then I would put her Jane Gomez. And the names are interesting because when you go for a name, all other name used, if there's a marriage certificate, then that's going to link the name to the new married name. If there is divorce certificates and previous marriages, then the other name used is going to relate back to those documents. And then if there's an original maiden name, then that name is going to relate back to the birth certificate. So, you know, sometimes people have their maiden name, and when they get married, they don't use the spouse's name, the husband's name. They don't take on the husband's name. So, but if you do have documents in your file that you're presenting where there's different names used, this really helps the Immigration Service get everything straight with the names. And if you have a bunch of names and they're really long, then you're going to want to attach a separate piece of paper with that name or those extra names on there. And you would put G325A on the very top of it, your last name, first name, and then you would just list those other names, and that would take care of it for adding that extra information. City and country of birth. I like to put everything else in caps, like I said. Cozumel, Mexico. U.S. Social Security number, if any. Well, she doesn't have any, so that'd be a none. Look at this. Invalid Social Security number, and her 9-digit Social Security number. Those keep popping up, but normally you can just blow through those and just leave none in there if there's never been a Social Security number. Okay, now we get in the family name of father and mother, and for the mother it's going to be the maiden name. So for family name, then father would be Garcia, say Gonzalez, first name, Pedro, then date, city, and country of birth. Okay. There's a date for you. City and country, so they're not asking for a state. If known. If you don't know it, don't worry about it. Really, if you don't know the date that your parents were born, don't worry about it. If you need to estimate, then you can put down here in a right like this, a little estimate like that. Doesn't like it, but you know what? You can get by putting that in there. Or, you know, if you don't know who your parents were, then that's going to look like this, unknown. Just that would work for an unknown parent. And the mother. Two, 23, 32. Yeah, we love Adobe Reader. Look at that. So what's the 1932? Did you get that? Okay. Country of birth. City and country of residence. There. So if this is my wife's parent, then I should definitely know that my mother-in-law's name is Angelica Garcia. Okay? You got that? That's important. Husband or wife, if none, so state. So this is where we're going to list the names of each other on our application. Husband or wife, if none, so state. So I'm going to state, first of all, whether or not that person is my husband or my wife. So it's going to be my wife. And then the next field is going to have that family name for wife, and I'm going to give the maiden name. Okay? So that's Garcia. First name, Jane. Birth date. Actually, no, cancel that. This is hers, so this is going to be husband. Family name, Daly. See, this is Jane's application, so Jane is going to be talking about Mark. So I'm so glad you caught that for me. Thank you. Those of you out there who caught that, you're on it. See what I'm saying? These forms are tricky. City and country of birth. Los Angeles, USA. Date of marriage. 02/14, 19, 2008. Place of marriage, Nashville. TN. Now, a marriage that happened outside of the country is still fine for purposes of immigration. But if it is a foreign marriage certificate, you're going to want to have it translated. Former husbands or wives. Okay, now look at these fields. If none, so state. Okay, well, we have none, but if you do, family name for wife, give the maiden name. So you put a name here, the first name, the birth date of your ex-husband or ex-wife. Date and place of marriage, date and place of termination of marriage. So this is all information. If you've got a bunch of them, then you're going to put those on the extra pages as well. Now here's one. Applicant's residence for the last 5 years. List present address first. Now residence is where you are actually living. Domicile is where you intend to live. So they want to know where you're living right now. List your present address first. So for Jane, then that's going to be 631 2nd Avenue South, Suite 20, Nashville, Tennessee, USA. Now, from when to when? Okay, well, when did, she got married. We got married on the 14th. So let's say she moved in on our marriage, on our wedding day. 02/14. Oh wait, hold on. Month and year. There's no date on this. 2008 to the present time. Now, these forms, when they're asking about residence, there's a lot of legal issues that pop up around residence. The first legal issue that pops up around residence is, are you filing this application in the right location? So if I give Nashville and I show up for my interview in Atlanta, they might say you are not in the right place. You have to go to Memphis. So that's one thing that might happen. And on the flip side, if I've scheduled and I've put all my information down on Nashville and I move to Memphis, but and I go to Memphis for my interview, and then all of a sudden I've changed my address, and I tell them at the interview, oh, I want to tell you I got a new address from where I put on all my applications, and that's in Atlanta. My new address, I have to go to an interview in Atlanta. So the jurisdiction and the changes of addresses are very important to keep track of. You want to make sure that you always give your change of address quickly when you change your address. And then the other issue that pops up is that husbands and wives are supposed to live together in the same residence after they're married. So if you guys aren't living in the same address after you're married, that's going to raise a red flag, and you're going to need to explain why it is you weren't living together. Now, many times it's perfectly explainable around school. That's what I see a lot. School requirements keep people living in different cities for a little while, or work requirements, those types of things. So when you go into your interview, be prepared and make sure that these applications are accurate. If you're not living in the same place, don't lie about it. Whatever you do, don't lie about it. Write down the separate addresses and just explain why it is you're living in separate addresses, okay? And again, you could be saying, well, in a month we're gonna move in together at this new address, so we'll just put the new address. Don't do that either. They're not asking about domicile. They're asking about where you're physically residing on the date that you sign this application. Okay, so just make it really clear, because you cannot lie on these applications, or you can get denied just for lying on the application. So you can explain living in different addresses, but it's very hard to explain. You can't really explain a lie on these applications. So that's that. And you got the question here, applicant's last address outside the United States for more than 1 year. So if before she moved in with me, she was living, if she was traveling around the United States, she didn't really have a residence because she was traveling, then I would say her residence would be her back home residence. She established a new residence after she married me and we moved in together. Before then, she was moving around, it would be that residence back in Mexico. So we would go 1212 Isla Mujeres Avenue, City, Cozumel, Providence or State, Quintana Roo, Country, Mexico, and then let's say she lived there for 10 years, so 03 to 1998 to 01 2008. And really, the thing about this information is that a lot of times, especially with students, you move so much. You've got so many residents. Okay, it can be tempting to just go, oh, I can't remember it all. I'm just don't even deal with it. Okay, here's the way I look at it. My take on this is that you've got to give it a good faith effort to list all the addresses where you've lived, and use a different piece of paper if you need to. Now, the dates can be fuzzy, and what's important to the Immigration Service is to know where you've been, and here's why. Sometimes when you're giving your fingerprints to do an FBI check for an immigration case, and someone with your same name pops up as having committed a crime, they can go to this form and they can say, you've never lived in, Burbank, California. All right, it's probably not you. Or at least that can help them determine and disqualify you from, having an identity that is not yours. So for that reason, to really put all those places you've been living is very important. And the flip side is true, is if you don't tell them about a crime or something that happens, it pops up and you haven't put that address on the form, they just caught you in a lie. You lived there and you never put your address there. So that's another reason, on top of the criminal thing, to deny you your green card and to deport you. And it's a shame, because a lot of the criminal convictions, there can be waivers when you're married to a U.S. citizen, and there's different ways around and getting those things taken care of. But you don't get that opportunity a lot of times if you lie on an application. They just say, no, I'm sorry, you got 2 strikes against you. You got a crime and we would have waived it, but now you're a liar too, so you're out. So I don't know how I can say it more strongly. Don't ever lie on these applications, please. If you have a question, if you feel like lying on something because you're ashamed of it or you're scared, you got to talk to an attorney. That's your sign to call an attorney and find out what's going on. What's going to happen to me if I say this, what's going to happen to me if I say that, and understand what's going on with the immigration laws, because they're very complicated, and you might be making something out to be more serious than it actually is. Okay, so then here, address outside. Okay, so we're going to put that again here, just so it's clear, and I'm doing my cut and paste on these. QR Mexico 1998 to 01 of 2008. Okay, great. Now, applicant's employment last 5 years, if none so state. List present employment first. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in this office and have gone through the game of people not wanting to tell me the truth on where they've worked because they've been working illegally in the United States. All right? Okay, well, first of all, let's get clear. Lying on this application is not an option. Okay? If you've worked illegally, do not even consider lying about it. Here's why. First issue that comes up with working illegally, all right, is that it is a ground of inadmissibility. However, when you're married to a U.S. citizen, all right, it's not charged against you. So to work illegally, when you come in and you're getting your adjustment of status based on marriage to a U.S. citizen, it's not going to be a grounds of inadmissibility like stealing and like using fake documents and those other bad things you can do. which can be a ground of inadmissibility and means that you could lose your green card and not get a green card because of it. The unlawful employment, working illegally, in and of itself is not that bad. Now, but there are aspects of it that might be bad, like making a false claim to citizenship. Okay, if you've made a false claim of citizenship to get a job, used a fake U.S. passport, used a fake U.S. birth certificate, checked on that I-9 form, your employment authorization form, employment verification form, that you were a U.S. citizen, that can be very, very serious. If you've done that, you need to talk to an immigration attorney and figure out how you're going to work around that and deal with that, because that would create a permanent bar against you ever getting getting this benefit. And so you've got to make sure that if that's the situation, you deal with that. The other situation that comes up with working illegally is that the employer is put at risk because you're putting the employer's name here and they hired you, and you were working illegally for the employer. But the thing about that is that just because you put an employer's name down on this form does not necessarily mean that they knew you were illegal when they hired you. So in my experience, I have not seen employers rated based on responses on this form, because it doesn't say enough about the fact that they knowingly hired an illegal alien. So that is another piece to it. But the third part of it are false documents. If you used a fake green card, if you used a fake Social Security card, all right, and you're married to a U.S. citizen, you got to tell the truth. So you're going to put down these employers, and then on the other forms where you have to indicate that you've used false documents, yeah, you got to state that you used false documents and request that waiver, because this is not something you want to have ongoing in your life. You want to get this stuff cleared out, you want to get a waiver filed for it, and you want to move on with your life with a clean conscience. I'm telling you, so many times they will find out stuff, and it's very, very sad when that happens. And people get their citizenships taken away, they get their green cards taken away by a lie that they made on an application when they could have gotten a waiver for it. And a waiver is a pardon. It's a pardon saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, my spouse is going to suffer extreme hardship if I'm not able to come and do this. And so tell the truth, and if you feel in your stomach and your gut that, oh my God, I don't want to tell the truth, that's when you talk to a lawyer. You've got to come clean. You got to know what your rights are, because you have rights and you have responsibilities. You definitely have a responsibility to put the true information on this application, but you have rights. There's rights for waivers. We live in an equitable society, and so we offer people pardons and waivers based on conduct that is bad but not that bad. So full name and address of employer. Okay, so let's say that she was working illegally. So she was working for the Opryland Hotel, but they didn't know it. Opryland Hotel in Nashville, Tennessee, and she was working as a waitress from 2008, and she's still working there. And then before that, if she was a student, you could put student down there, or if she was at home and didn't, I would just put at home in Cozumel, at home, because housewife sounds weird. And those are other answers you can put down there. So, okay, oops, 1/1998 to go to 1998, so it looks something like that. Last occupation abroad. At home, constant mail. At home. Same information. 1998. It's redundant, I know. But it's also thorough. Okay. And we come down here. This form is submitted in connection with an application for status as permanent resident. We're getting green card, we're getting our permanent resident on this. Then your signature of the signature of applicant and date, and then look at this. If your native alphabet is in other than Roman letters, write your name in your native alphabet below, which is interesting. So non-Roman letters, you're going to sign that thing in, you write your name in that language too, Arabic or Hindi, whatever, Aramaic, Greek, Russian, Japanese, all the Asian languages. I love the world. And so that's it. So you fill this thing out, you're looking good, it's truthful, it's complete, and you're doing great. And so this concludes form capture part of this presentation. Okay, so you made it through the G325A. Congratulations. That is a big form. There's a lot of information on there. So with that form done, you're getting closer to getting this packet completely finished. One thing I wanted to say about the form, though, is when you sign it, and when you sign all these forms, it's a good idea to sign them in blue ink. That way it's easy to tell that it's an original. So on behalf of Step-by-Step Immigration Forms, I want to thank you for doing this with us and wish you all the luck and all the good wishes for the green card that you so richly deserve.